Tea is over, but the fun is just about to begin. I hope everybody's had a great day, despite it being a little bit of a Monday. I know sometimes Mondays can be a big downer. So this is how we welcome you to the Feenix Youth Day Imbizo 2021. And our theme this evening is social capital. My name is Tsepo Kapane, and I'll be your host over the next hour. I'm a business developer and stakeholder champion at Wafunda, which is under the Feenix brand. And of course, I'd love to welcome our fantastic panelists who have taken the time this evening to be with us. So instead of spending time with family, catching up with work, they decided to be with us. Thank you so much. We definitely appreciate you. And of course, our broader audience who are made up of funders, stakeholders, and most importantly, the ones that we're celebrating this month, the youth in the form of students. Now, before I introduce our panelists who will assist us in unpacking our theme of social capital, I need to share some house rules and some tips. So to our panelists, have fun, remember to be concise with your points, and most importantly, please smile. And to the rest of our audience, please remain on mute. Engage with us and the rest of the Feenix family in the chat group. We'll also be sharing a survey during the course of this Imbizo. And for those that are very quick on social media, our hashtags for this evening are Access for All with Feenix and hashtag 76K for the class of 1976. Remember to tag Feenix. So the aim of this Imbizo is to bring together a diverse group of stakeholders who each play a role in supporting youth to develop social capital. That's what this evening is all about. Now, I'd like to introduce our panelists, and as I mention their names, I ask that they please smile and give us a wave. Want to see that you're alive, you are happy. Yes, it's a Monday, but we want to see that you're alive. So I'm going to start with a very interesting gentleman. His name is Peter Baronsa. He is the Director of Inclusive Education. He has 20 years of experience in the development sector in South Africa, the United Kingdom, and China, developing projects for charities, small business, and community and faith-based organizations. Peter, please give us a beautiful big smile. Give us a wave there. Oh, yes, loving that energy, loving that energy. Next up is Cora Peterson. She's the Student Engagement Manager at Feenix. Lots of us know and love her because she does some amazing work in ensuring that our students at Feenix are properly supported as she engages with various stakeholders. Cora, please give us a big smile, a big wave. Love it, love it, love it. Even got that lipstick, girl. I see you, I see you. And next up, we've got Usimo Sihle Mjimvelwa. He's the country lead for transformation at Baker Hughes South Africa and is a highly astute and experienced transformation leader and human resources consultant with 10 years experience providing bespoke solutions to organizations. Please give us a beautiful big smile, a wave. Loving them shades, loving them shades. Ah, I see you, I see you. All right, cool stuff. Next up on our panelist, we've got Tuma Mjali. She is the National Head of Education at Abasa. Abasa is the advancement of Black accounting students. She's also a Deputy Head of Department in the Nkuhlu Accounting Department at the University of Fort Hare with over 7 years of experience working in finance, which includes the corporate sector and academia. Tuma, please give us a beautiful big smile, a big wave. Oh yes, oh yes. All right, cool stuff. Next up, we've got Nedi Makaula. He's a Feenix 2021 Student Ambassador who represents the youth this evening. He's a third-year student at the University of Rhodes, where he is completing a Bachelor of Commerce in Information Systems and Management. He is very smart. Pozayami, give us a nice little wave, a nice little smile. I see you, I see you. All right, cool stuff. Next, we've got Lungisile Nkwenyama. She's a student coordinator at Wafunda and has 10 years of experience, including in HIV prevention and peer support. Lungi, please give us a beautiful big smile. Give us a wave over there. Oh, you see when people use two hands? Ah, that's the energy that I want right there. And last but certainly not least, Minenhle Matelula. Matelelo, sorry about that. She is the Member Success Officer at the Knowledge Trust, skilled in design thinking. She uses her expertise to build solutions to address complex social issues surrounding unemployment. And a little birdie told me that she's a TEDx UCT speaker. So she knows how to give us a big wave over there. Give us a big, massive wave. Beautiful, beautiful smile. Thank you so much to our panelists for joining us to share their thoughts, experiences, and ideas around social capital. So the question is, what is social capital, right? When I think of the word social capital, I picture a group, a community of people sitting around a great big fire with a pot in the middle, right? And each member of the community has an ingredient which they will use to prepare this meal. The meal remains incomplete until we all share and contribute towards this pot. So we all have a role to play. Some are cutting the veggies, others are stirring the pot and tasting, while the rest of us are ensuring that the fire keeps burning. That's how I see social capital. What does it mean to you, the audience? Let us know in the chat box while I get answers from our astute panelists. So in unpacking what social capital is, right, I'd like to start with Toma from Abasa and Simon from Baker Hughes, right? Could you guys please share how social capital plays a role in your individual sectors and areas of business? I think we're going to start with Toma.
Thank you, Tsepo, for allowing me to open up. I think our association very much speaks to exactly that. And I think I love that analogy when you were speaking about everybody has got their role to play. And I think within the challenges we're finding ourselves in as a country and sort of where the youth are sitting, when I think of the roles that we all have to play and what it means, basically what the term social capital means for us. It is around ensuring that, there's this aspect around money, monetary money, and doing things for money, and being Black and knowing where we come from and how it takes a village to raise somebody and everybody puts in their little something. We've all come to appreciate that sometimes to advance youth, we have to come in and not for monetary benefit, but just for the roles that we from an understanding of the role that we have to play. So easily, Abasa is a nonprofit organization that looks at ensuring that all of these challenges or issues that the youth are facing when they're trying to become chartered accountants are basically addressed through the organization. And everybody is doing it out of Ubuntu, and that's the role that we are almost putting forward as an organization. But yeah.
Beautiful. I love the work that you guys are doing in assisting students in a very difficult and challenging space that you guys are in. Simon, from your end on the Baker Hughes side, can you share what social capital, the type of role social capital plays in your sector, in your area of business?
So Tsepo, our role is multifaceted, I think. One of which would be we looking at particularly where Baker Hughes comes from, or the whole entire sector, where we talked about oil and gas and, electricity and all that kind of stuff, and where we've transitioned now into what you call an energy efficiency type of environment. So we've got a lobby and rally industry, communities, and everybody that's involved in this energy transition kind of environment. And I would say that's one of the aspects that we would be playing from a social capital point of view, in that we need to make sure that everybody understand the value of energy and what it plays in making sure that we lower our carbon footprints, our carbon emissions, and so on and so forth. So we as Baker Hughes have got a very huge role to play in terms of that, particularly from an education point of view. But further to that, I think the biggest role that Baker Hughes has to play in driving social capital revolves around, now we are transitioning as a society, and I'm talking about society because Baker Hughes is a multinational organization where we operate across different countries, across the globe. So we refer to our partners as members of the society. We've got to ensure that we have the right skill and we've got the right type of people that are going to support this social, change and this transition into a new energy frontier. And particularly the role that we've opted to play, within the South African market is to make sure that we actually take our society, which is the South African youth, along the journey by making sure that we invest in the required skills, we invest in having, sufficient, what you can call it, readily available students that will be able to take us into this new energy frontier.
I absolutely love that. From what Coma and from what Simo has said, because you can see that clearly students are within the center of finding solutions to move the country forward. So whether that's in a specific sector or whether that's in energy, which is such an important thing when you consider the load shedding that's happening in the country. But I'm also keen to bring in Lungisile from our Funda student community and youth side, and Nedi as well from a youth side, to say, can they also share their personal experiences in building social capital for their own professional development? Because, Nedi is a student, Lungisile deals with a lot of students. So I'm very keen to hear from them. I'd like to start with you, Lungisile.
Thank you, Tsepo, and good evening, everyone. So for me, it's quite important to build networks because that way you're able to work with people that can help you and you can help them. So I don't remember a time in all the opportunities that I've been fortunate to have throughout my life where I didn't know someone within that organization. And I know for some people this might sound as if there was nepotism involved, but not even. But it's a matter of the kind of people that are in my circle or the kind of people that I've built relationships with. How can we help each other to grow? So when I know that when, for instance, you're in a space where there's an opportunity, you can reach out to me and say, hey, listen, there's something happening here. Are you interested in that? And building those relationships isn't a matter of I want to benefit from you. But for me, it has always been a motto of what can I give from my end. Typical example, one of the opportunities that I received to be part of the Ambassadors Program, International Youth Ambassadors Program, where 50 youth around South Africa are part of it. It was someone from my WhatsApp, and we know that WhatsApp is quite personal. So it's only people that you want to be part of your circle, part of your community that you engage with on WhatsApp. So I saw that and I'm like, oh, this looks very interesting. And it's something that I want to tap into, especially this year, and I applied, followed all the right processes, so my point is on a personal development side, it's very big for me to build networks that I know I can rely on. And some people might call that a community. And Coma spoke about the spirit of Ubuntu. The spirit of Ubuntu exists within a certain group of people. It doesn't just exist within individuals. So for me, throughout my career, throughout the opportunities that I've got, it has always been via my networks. So it's quite important.
Now, I absolutely love what you said, and what I grasped from it is that building networks isn't only about taking advantage of opportunities, it's also the willingness to give into opportunities. Because sometimes as young people, we think, just meet as many people as you can, you'll benefit from this person, that person, but we never think about what are we contributing to those relationships, to those networks. So I absolutely love what you're saying. I'm interested to hear from you, Nedi, as a student, as part of our fantastic 2021 Feenix Ambassador program, can you share your personal experiences in building social capital with other young people and how it's added to your own development?
Defining that term social capital, which is what everyone has mentioned, just to add in it. For me, it's just the value of relationships that you create that will give you access to opportunities that will expose you to resources and knowledge. Most importantly, to learning what Ubuntu is, what the lady just mentioned down. So given the campus life, even from high school, I think we never actually looked into it and how important those relationships were. For instance, on campus, we have tutorial groups, we have practicals, we have classes and everything. And I won't always be checking my emails. So it's more things that, hey, we have this going on. the test is starting at this time. There's this program that is happening. If you want to sign up, you can do that. You get to hear all these opportunities and things that are happening from your people, from your peers that maybe you couldn't get an opportunity to attend to or even check your emails for them. Also with grad programs, not everyone has access to internet and not everyone has device and all these things to check all these things. Others don't know how to navigate through the internet and find these things. And it's our peers, it's these tutorial groups, it's these class lessons where we learn that Capitec is offering this, Feenix has this opportunity to pay your debts, this and that and that. So it all starts in class.
I'm loving what you're saying, because what I'm picturing is that as a student, you always need to have your hands open. So you need to always be open to opportunities, whether that's within your immediate space, a tutorial group, or whether it's somebody at res, or whether it's a neighbor. You always need to have your hands open, because you never know where the next opportunity is going to come from and where you can also pour yourself into an opportunity. So I really love that you brought up the issue of just your immediate circle, like a tutorial group, which is great. I'd also like to bring in Peter from Inclusive Education, where they do some amazing work. Peter, how do you see social capital playing a role within the development and advancement of youth as well?
I think it's an integral part of actually nation building. People often say that the youth is the future, but the youth is out today. They are reality today. We only have a future if we deal with our reality today. And our youth got amazing talent. They have amazing abilities. If I could just add, a couple of years ago, I see the Honorable Buhle Dlamini is in the group, and he headed up the Heartlines project nationally, and I was the coordinator in the Western Cape. In one of our biggest community or halls for that matter, we had an international artist who performed, and the hall was 40% full to capacity. A week later, we brought our local young people in, local artists, and the hall was overfilled. Over 5,000 young people came to support young people. There is an amazing vibe and strength and energy amongst young people. And we often think that the young people don't know. But I can guarantee you that in every community, the young people know what the problems are. In every community, they know what the solutions are. They might not have the resources, or they might not have all the know-how to put the puzzle together, but they do know. And until we know how to harness that, we are always going to be on the back foot. Until how we know to take that passion and that strength, the ability of young people, for example, to lead us in local fashion. Do you know how we can revolutionize this country if we follow our own young people with their own fashion sense? There is amazing potential, people. We cannot exclude our young people from anything that happens in this country. If we do that, we do it to our own detriment. We're shooting ourselves in the foot. The young people have the express knowledge of knowing what's happening now. We appreciate the older folk, but they come from an historical base. They don't necessarily know what's happening now. And our young people know what's happening now on the ground. So we cannot plan if we don't know what's happening now. We cannot move forward, and if we don't know the resources we have now. I guarantee you, I've had the privilege on working on 4 different continents. The people of Africa, we are in demand. We have the ability to make something out of nothing. Our people, for a lack of a better term, we have not been spoiled. We've had to learn how to survive with a little, and we made something out of that. We need to learn how to harness that so that we can change and revolutionize this beautiful country of ours. Thank you.
I'm absolutely loving your words, Peter. And once again, students are at the center. you know? And because we're putting students at the center, whether it's in civil society, whether it's in corporate South Africa, in these various spaces, it's important then to then help youth to actually build the social capital. So the building, so what are the practical tips, the things that youth, they need to be doing if they're gonna be leading from the front? Because we've got the likes of Peter, Minenhle, Cora, we've got the Simos, we've got the Lungisile, who are all giving the support to the students, but then what do the students do? How do they build that social capital? And I think this is a question for you, Lungisile, is that, you know, based on your personal and professional experiences, can you share some tips on how young people can begin to build their own social capital?
So one of the biggest things that you have to realize as a young person is what you want. So before you even go and say, let's take social media, for instance, before you dive in on social media, you follow every other person that you come across. You must ask yourself, what is it that I want? So for you to build a solid social capital or social network, you have to know what you want. Once you've identified what you want, then you need to align yourself with people that share the same sentiments. You know, if I can make an example of myself, I'm not into hip hop. So you'll never see me following someone who's into hip hop. Those values are not aligned, you know. I'll just be wasting my time and that person will be wasting their time, you know. So you have to try and align yourself with people that speak the same language. And even though they speak the same language, but they have to also be diverse in what they stand in, you know, because sometimes when you just want to sit with people that are like-minded, you're not going to grow because you're not challenging each other, you're not tapping into things that challenge you as an individual. So just number one, know what you want, align yourself with people that also want the same thing. When you're looking at organizations that you want to work with or volunteer at, are their values aligned with your values? Do you see yourself giving something towards that organization, and what can you get out of it? You know, so it's those things. For instance, when I was at UWC doing my undergrad, I've always been passionate about HIV prevention. Like I've always had a hunger for it. And part of the reason is because I'm from KZN, you know. So when I got into UWC, I wanted to be part of a program that spoke that language, and I joined the HIV and AIDS program. So I didn't join a mentoring program because that was not going to feed into what I wanted. So you have to really align yourself with people and things that are going to water that seed that you're trying to plant. And it has worked for so many people. It has worked for famous people that we look up to till this day. And also, once you've entered that space, or once you're in that space with people that you aligned with, what can you give? Because we're not in the spirit of just taking. It doesn't work. It's not working for our country. We can see the corruption because it's just a take business. So what can you give? You know, once you've, there's a quote that say, as human beings, we feel alive once we become of service to others. So how can you become of service to that group or that organization or that company that you want to be part of? So those are just the 3 tips that I can give to the young people that are with us tonight.
I absolutely love what you've said, because to me, it sounds like, you know, in summary, what you're saying is that young people need to be intentional with their time, intentional with the spaces that they operate in. I think, Nedi, as a student on the ground, as an ambassador, I mean, what are some of the tips that you could share with your fellow students, with your fellow ambassadors, in terms of things that you have done to build your own?
Again, I think it's different for each person. What determines your purpose and what gives you the edge to want to build your own social capital is determined by your background, determined by your environment, and also where you want to go. Like, what are you looking at in the next 5-10 years? That gives you the meaning of what you need to do and where you should go to get that. The people that you need to associate with. It's small things. You just need to start. Put your first foot forward. I mean, you might not know that taking this time, coming to Rhodes, going to UCT is going to lend you, but you need to do that. And also you need to engage in these programs. You need to talk, you need to greet, say hi. It's those small basic things that allow you to have doors open for more and more stuff that might come. What has worked for me is to basically come out of my comfort zone and say that I want to be a businessman. I want to be the next Ika Tangota. I want to be the next Patrice Motsepe. So for me to get there, I need to talk to the right people. I need to talk to lecturers so that I can pass at Rhodes University and beyond. They're going to give me the direction. They're going to give me other things that I never expected. So it's those small conversations that might allow you to build those strong relationships for you to have more opportunities that you never even thought of.
I absolutely love that, because in terms of building your social capital, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to do something massive, but you need to look at your immediate environment, your immediate circle. What are you doing in your community? What are you doing on campus? What are you doing on social media? So I really love what you're saying. Simo, I'm very curious to know, at Baker Hughes, what are some of the programs that you guys might be running that help youth to actually build this social capital?
So we do quite a lot in specifically the funding space, where we support institutions like Feenix. We also run mentorship programs during VAC work. But what I always say to students when they come onto those programs, in fact, if they come on at all, what is critical for them to understand what we're looking for in people is that we first, before we look at academics, before we look at anything prior to the students, we need to be able to understand what is your brand as an individual. So the moment that we understand what your brand, and your brand is defined by a number of things, which is your value system, who you are, where you're wanting to go, and all those kind of things. But if you don't have a brand, we cannot, how are we going to see how you align to us as an organization? And we've moved away from, technical capabilities, because technical capabilities can only take you thus far. But if you are able to operate and function within homogeneous teams, you then are going to be successful within the workplace, etc. And it goes right back to the issue of social capital, because now you've got the necessary skills, for example, to function within a work environment. You'll be then deployed, globally to various countries, etc. So it's very important that I think the first a point where we start on is, I think Sislungsile said that it's who you are. It's who your brand is. What do you stand for as an individual, and what it is that you want to get out of this experience? Because gone are the days where you're going to come in and say, I'm going to work for Baker Hughes for 10 or 15 years. It doesn't work like that anymore. I come into Baker Hughes, I say, these are the things that I want to achieve within this. This is how Baker Hughes is going to benefit my career, and this is where I think it will take me. So, for example, I personally joined Baker Hughes because I wanted, a global exposure. And that's, once I've done with that, it's no hard feelings, but I've built that capability and I've built that skill, and I'll need to move on. So I cannot emphasize the part of building your own personal brand, because that is what is going to set you apart from all we just had 400 applicants now on the bursary program. And if I can't tell or get the sense of who you are and what you stand for, I'm definitely not going to choose you. So we really focus on building that and harnessing that capability within students.
That's so beautiful. And to the students in the chat, what is your personal brand? That's what I'd like for you guys to answer in your chat. What is your personal brand? I think Simo touched on it so beautifully. Toma, from the point of view of Abasa, what are some of the examples of programs that you guys are doing internally within your space?
Thank you for that question. I think within our particular spaces, so we're in the accounting spaces, and we've identified, I think, unique challenges to the African child because of the particular backgrounds that they sometimes come from. So it's this understanding that within the value chain, I think we call it the cradle to grave kind of approach, where we've come to realize that it's not at a particular point in time that somebody needs assistance, but it is right through the entire value chain. And I think we've termed what you call a cradle to grave kind of approach. And along this value chain, you've got a number of initiatives that are aimed at assisting students to basically be, from whatever challenges that they are seeing, particularly the African students. So I think brands like Abasa are beautiful because they work exactly on that, on social capital. So it is accountants that have made it coming back into the cycle to assist up and coming accountants that have not made it through various initiatives. I think the flagship one is things like mentorship, through sometimes academic support. So where we're seeing that some of the students at the university level are struggling with particular things, assisting them through ITC, APC, which is some of the board exams that the accounting profession has. But I think brands like Abasa speak to exactly that social capital where Ubuntu and we are coming together as those that have already traveled this path and coming back to lift those that are still up and coming. So there's so many initiatives that I'm like, where do I even begin? I think we've also got something coming up with Feenix as well that we're launching soon, which is also looking at how do we assist African candidates with historical debt in terms of how to raise a lot of this. But the brand itself, I think, speaks to the social capital and what it can do.
Oh man, I love that. And you know, as you guys are speaking, I keep thinking about, you know, my view, how I view social capital is that the youth have to show up with their ingredients, and you decide what your ingredients are. You decide what it is that you're bringing to create this meal, you know, to prepare this successful thing that we're all trying to do. And I'm also thinking about how COVID has now limited our ability as people and even as young people to build social capital. We now have to go digital, you know, using technology, and it's not always that simple, you know. So how do we then build this social capital in the digital age? And I think it's a great question for you, Minenhle, at the Knowledge Trust, is in terms of, you know, looking at social media and other online platforms. How can youth build social capital in this digital age?
Thank you for that question, Sipho, and good evening to everyone. So firstly, you know, the Knowledge Trust is an online platform. So a lot of the connection, communication, and anyone actually finding our services or our position in online is going to be digital. However, what we believe is that online on a user surface, it is possible to create or be a part of a social network, but a social capital system or social capital environment is where you actually are able to build trust. And trust requires vulnerability. And thick trust compared to thin trust, where you are aware of someone's brand because of consistency of the same message, but the reality of knowing someone that, you know, this is someone who can actually tell you the real of them, and they don't only have something to offer you that you can reciprocate, but they have something that they want to create with you. And creation, a lot of things go wrong. A lot of things can be absolutely wrong from the beginning. People can sometimes think that you are crazy when you think of creating, but we are able to, at the Knowledge Trust, create creation spaces called growth circles, where we create an environment that is 100% confidential and actually encourages vulnerability from our members, who are, a lot of them, in vulnerable situations, but are able to actually realize that I may not have anything to bring. I may not even know what I want from you, but we can create something. And when you are in that space where you now know that there is a future, and it's no longer a zero-sum view of things, and it's no longer a situation where you like, what can I bring to the next person, what do I even want for myself, but what could actually be possible, and you realize that the possibilities are actually endless. And that is the kind of social capital that we actually do need amongst the youth, because very much so the page is unwritten, and it can continuously be rubbed off and started again. Like we can see now, we're in the beginning of a completely different age where new intelligence is being created, where digital is becoming the norm. But it's so much more than just digital that is changing. It's even our thinking. It's the fact that we don't want to be on the same page. We want to be on the same belief, not just religion. We want to create a world that is the same, that we all know within us that we believe in that. We believe in humanity. And that is the social part that we need. And we're doing that through trust at Growth Circles.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I think it makes a lot of sense. And it's a fantastic platform that you guys have created, which also allows students from everywhere, from all different types of backgrounds to come on and to be vulnerable and to be open and to say, I'm looking for opportunities. I'm looking to get into certain spaces. And what do I need to do to be able to do that? I'd like to also bring in Cora from a Feenix point of view where, we've already got this fantastic crowdfunding platform and technology is what we do and social media and so forth. Cora, what else should students be considering in this digital age in terms of trying to build their social capital?
Yeah, I think the panel's already covered such fantastic points, and I really love what Mentorship said in terms of creating these new spaces. And I think something that we've really found is that it's important that students are proactive and intentional about the spaces they want to be a part of. It's not just about already knowing the kind of relationships they think they want to build, but exposing themselves to people that can be completely different, exposing themselves to people that could elevate their thinking, that could expose them to a new world. So for example, I'm in a completely different industry to Simo from Baker Hughes, but I've spent time with Simo. I've heard how his brain works and how he fires off, and he's inspiring to be around. He makes me think about my work differently. The same goes for Lungi that I've spent time with. The same goes with Sepo. So we come from different fields, but there's a passion behind everything we do, which almost becomes our golden thread, and we get to bounce ideas off of each other and create this new space. So I think that becomes very important. I think what the Knowledge Trust has done really beautifully is that because they already originated within an edtech space, same to Feenix, we've created the centralized space for students to go to access resources, right? But students need to bring their part. They need to be intentional about engaging in those spaces. I'm not just, riding on coattails. I'm not just a passenger, but I'm participating. I'm participating in this process, and I'm bringing my best to everything I do, which means if you go onto Feenix and you create a profile, you write your story like you want someone to read it. You're not doing it to tick a box. You're doing it to inspire someone to donate to you, because that opens up access to education, which opens up access to other opportunities. We've had students like Nedi who said, you know what, I want to take a step further. I believe in Feenix and what they stand for, so I'm going to become an ambassador. And through him becoming an ambassador, he met a whole network of young professionals and more seasoned professionals that are going to be looking out for him. We're going to be vouching for him in every space that we go to. So I think it's really about seeing, it's not just about what can I get out of it, but I as a person, as my personal value system, will bring everything I have and more, because I believe that I have something to give, and I believe that I have something to get. And it ties in with what Simo said about personal brand. It's so important when students enter into these online platforms, and I mean social media is a big one. Know your personal brand and be consistent with it. And also, we all like to post things in a personal capacity, but you don't get to differentiate between your personal life and your professional life anymore. In this digital age, what you post in a personal capacity, a future employer can see. So you better make sure that that brand, you're happy with that brand, because you're going to be held accountable to that brand. So I think it's important that we know our personal brand, be consistent with it, we are satisfied with what we're putting out there, and that we're intentional about engaging in spaces, not just with like-minded people, but with different ways of thinking and perspectives and fields, because it exposes us to something that will elevate our thinking. And I think just to touch on, moving into this digital space, there's so many benefits, which I think everyone has mentioned, to social networks, and being in a digital space, we get to access resources and people and organizations beyond our geographical location. You know, no longer is it about, oh, I can go to these people in Cape Town physically, I'm going to hand in my CV, I'm going to chat to these people. Now, all of a sudden, you can get a mentor through the Say Yes mentoring program from someone internationally, which you never would have had an opportunity to do before. However, as much as it can level the playing field in terms of you get access to employers, to potential funders, to potential mentors, no matter your geographical location, that's dependent on your connectivity. So if you don't have the tech, if you don't have the data, if you don't have the Wi-Fi spot, all of a sudden it makes this inequality worse. And we truly believe as Feenix, and I know as all of the panelists here, we are aligned in our value system, that it's only through partnership that we're really going to be able to solve this. Because when we did a research study last year, 46% of our students reported that they don't have access to their own computer. That was before lockdown. Now we're in lockdown. Imagine what those numbers are. So we need to be able to realize that as much potential as we have for this kind of connectivity and building up of authentic relationships that benefit everyone, we also need to start partnering in creative ways to say, how do we get the resources that to students that they need to be able to thrive in this kind of environment? Otherwise, the ones that are already connected are going to thrive, and the ones that aren't, their situation is going to worsen. And like Peter said, it's not just about the youth or the future. The youth are now. The youth are now. They are wanting to build up their social capital and build up themselves now. And it's our responsibility as organizations, the government and the private sector, how do we equip that? How do we support it? And how do we elevate that to where they want to be? Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
It definitely makes sense. I think, Nedi, from a student point of view, do you agree that those are some of the benefits and some of the disadvantages in terms of technology? So stuff like data, you might not even have a computer or a laptop to be able to access those kinds of platforms. Has that been something that you've experienced, that some of your other fellow students have been experiencing?
Of course, Tsepo, starting with the disadvantages, I think what also delayed the online learning in some institutions is the fact 80% of the students have devices to connect to the internet. And then we solve the issue of devices as government, as schools, departments. Now it comes to the issue of data. How now do I use my device to connect to the internet? We solve the issue of data. Now it becomes an issue of, can I use the device? Because some students can't even operate a laptop. Some can't even, once I've logged in, where do I go now using my school system? Where do I check my marks and all those things? So it really is an issue, especially with first years that were coming in last year. Remember here at school, they only spent 3 weeks and then they had to go home again. Now, they're not familiar with how road system is working. Because the first term, it's all about them learning the system, how to upload their marks, how to check the tests online, all those things. So it was really bad. But there are benefits. I think Cora mentioned that now, you're not worrying about geographical barriers and all those things. You're able to access things sitting at your laptop, at your comfort at home. And then you have abundance of information. You can literally get anything you want in the internet. That's what comes with doing things online. And also now you're able to connect with potential employers, bursaries and everything. I know there's this the Great Star app where you just put your profile, your marks and everything there, just like Feenix. But now what they do, they check your qualifications and everything. And then Nedbank says, I want you. Capitec says, I want you. Allen Gray says, I want you. So you meet employers just by doing your stuff on the app, and then you chill. You engage in their content, they engage in your content. So it's really nice working online, but it comes with disadvantages as well.
Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, some of those advantages and some of those challenges that a student would normally have, because we're always quick to say data and connectivity, but then some people don't even have a device. And those that do have a device don't even know how to use that device. One thing we've been discussing is, students at the center of social change and the role that they need to play within these types of spaces. I'm very curious to hear from each of our panelists, right? How can the youth better position themselves when it comes to social capital? What should they be thinking about? Positioning themselves within your organization, within your sector, but also being very mindful of the idea of being reciprocal, because social capital isn't only always about taking, it's also about pouring in, because sometimes the opportunity comes from you pouring in, not from you taking. So I'm keen to sort of get a sense from each of our panelists, how should the youth be better positioning themselves, but also thinking about the idea of being reciprocal. I think I'm going to start with you, Peter. What are your thoughts? I think you're still on mute, Peter.
Let's go and do that. There we go. I think there should be the youth should think more nationally. Because often in the little communities that we work, the youth seem to think that the crisis, the problem is a localized problem. But the barriers that we face are literally national barriers. Whether we're working in KwaZulu-Natal or Limpopo, the Northern Province, we've been doing loads of projects all over the country. It seems that the youth seem to think that they have a problem that is characterized and overpowered by local conditions. We should bring more of an awareness of a national youth, of a national ability, a national resource. Yeah? Because if I'm in KwaZulu-Natal and I can only do B, I need to understand that I'm part of the alphabet. And if I don't do B, the rest of the alphabet won't function in this country. So if we can bring a bit more awareness to the youth, that they know they've got a right, they know they've got a role to play, and they should understand where they fit into that role. That they are not insignificant. Yeah, because the skills that they have, believe me, it will blow your mind with some of the solutions that young people come up with in different communities. Now imagine if they knew they had the potential for that solution to go nationally and transform this country. I would like there to be some sort of awareness, some sort of empowerment for youth to know that if I design something, if I come up with a solution, I have the ability to change this whole country, because all the rest of the youth and everybody else will stand behind me. So if there are more systems that can filter that type of awareness and knowledge in, hopefully then it will be exposed by what they do in their local community, knowing that it can go national.
That makes so much sense. Thank you so much, Peter. Would love for the youth to ask questions in the chat box. We'll also be sharing a survey that we'd like for them to fill in. Simo, over to you. What are your thoughts? How should young people, better, try and position themselves?
And it's so funny that you should call me right after Peter, because my first line to Peter was that we should definitely have I literally wrote it down. We should solve for national problems, but with a global mindset. And I'm saying this because I'm interacting and I'm engaging with all my global counterparts. And I feel so honored to be a South African, because we as South Africans, and I think somebody said it earlier on, we are solutionists, we are thinkers. And the world, companies like Baker Hughes, which was born out of GE, etc., and is leading and at the forefront of energy, are today coming to South Africa to recruit for some of the most critical and scarce skills that we have globally. We cannot shy away from that and say that that we as South Africans cannot actually be the forefront and the leaders in some of these solutionist thinking, because what is happening right now, because we are so held back and we're shy about who we are and what we stand for and our capability and skills, they are robbing us blind. they are taking our resources and pushing them off to the Dubais, to the UKs, to the Chinas, and all that kind of stuff. So I've come to a point where I've said at Baker Hughes that, sure, good for you guys that you should be a global company, you should be supporting and operating, but you are going to localize a lot of the things that we are going to. You are not just going to come and take and shove, take from our country and then move all the capital of, globally. So I really want, what I would want from the youth is really for them to be a lot more combative about who they are and what they stand for, because the economies like your America, like your China, it's because they're at advanced and we're coming in at the tail end of the whole revolution, and we find ourselves being shy. So we really have to be able to be comfortable and say, your solution, you sitting there in Houston, Texas, does not make me feel insignificant sitting here in South Africa. So I really want to encourage people when they do have opportunities to operate in global companies, grab them to solve for national problems, but with a global mindset, because that is how we're going to become competitive as a nation.
Oh man, that's fantastic. Cora, what are your thoughts in terms of how young people should be positioning themselves? Just generally, and I think also in terms of your organization and your space.
Thanks for that. I think the key thing for me is to say to the youth that they should put themselves out there. And by putting yourself out there, I mean, be curious about societal issues that don't necessarily affect you, and be involved as being part of something that is going to address those societal issues. I think Peter spoke to bringing them together and nationalizing, I think, something. Now, our organization does a lot of this through our student chapters. So we have student chapters right across the universities in South Africa in an attempt to bring together this youth and almost get a platform where they can come together and talk about some of these issues, and also to understand their power, their value, their worth, and be able to drive some of these challenges and issues that they see as roadblocks and stumbling blocks within, I think, the profession and assisting them in that. But for me, it's about putting yourself out there, being involved in these spaces, and being active, actively involved in addressing some of these issues in these spaces. Two, I think for me, something personally that I wish I'd also done when I was younger was seeking mentorship. I think mentorship happened for me as a by the way chance kind of thing. And one of the things I think we do try to facilitate via the structures and the student chapters is the mentorship space, which is very, very important and can actually drive a lot of who you are and who you're going to be in the future. But just get involved, get out there, and be curious about what's going on in your country.
Be curious, exactly. Be curious about what's going on in your country, in your environment, even globally. Minenhle, what are your thoughts? How do we better position ourselves as youth to take advantage of opportunities and to start to build?
So from my side, at the Knowledge Trust, we really are very forward thinking. We're always thinking about the fact that the minute you're solving a problem that's already, materialized and actually shown itself, and you can already see the symptoms of the problem, it's already too late to be solving that problem because the root has gone on and manifested. But we really need to be thinking about things that we can create that can last for generations. Those are the kind of solutions that we need to be thinking about creating. And to be in a position where you can create social capital, where you have people who want to speak about doing those things, that means that you have to be incredibly courageous. Because sometimes at the beginning of thinking about those solutions or designing them, it's going to seem as though you are probably two steps too early or you're late, but it doesn't seem very relevant. And we believe that And those are the things that you need when you are creating that kind of social capital. There's knowing people, and then there's trading resources and thinking with people, but then there's something about being able to implement something that is sort of a revolution, that is a different changing of history and a creation, that you need people to be able to position themselves in a way that you can reflect truthfully, firstly, with yourself, and be able to share yourself truthfully with the next person, and have people that can actually back you 100% because they also believe that they're backing themselves. That's the kind of social capital that's actually going to change anything. Not necessarily always solving. I understand the value of solving problems, but superior to that, it should be more about what we can do to actually, like how Mr. Peter said, that we can not only create the future that is happening now, that is happening absolutely now. And when things are happening now, sometimes when they haven't materialized, they may look a little crazy, but we need to be able to be willing to be crazy. We need to be willing to be going to SpaceX and actually thinking that, yes, that seems quite right. That seems like the common sense around this social capital, because we're all crazy. Yeah.
Awesome. Lungisile, what are your thoughts? How do students and young people start to better position themselves in terms of social capital?
Oh, Tshepo, the panelists, they've summarized literally everything that I was thinking, and I completely agree with everyone. And my thing has always been and will remain being, align yourself with people that share the same values, and be open-minded. Open yourself to opportunities. Forget whatever that your high school teacher told you about getting to university, getting good grades, and getting a job one day. It doesn't work like that. And I think Simo highlighted so nicely, and for someone who's already in that space, to say, when you're out there now looking for work, your 90% that you got, it doesn't matter. There are other people that got 90% in their studies. So what is it that you're bringing that is different? And you can bring something different if you open yourself up, if you actively open yourself up to new opportunities, challenge yourself. Many of us have tapped into spaces where we thought you're not worthy to tap into those spaces. Imposter syndrome might come through, but fight it. Tell yourself that you are deserving of good things, of learning new things, of being in spaces where you're going to be inspired and grow as a young person and solve national programs. Like the program that I'm part of, the National Youth Resilience Initiative, when it was founded, it was during COVID. And it's literally just the government and other stakeholders trying to build a network of young people. Someone in the Western Cape, in Gauteng, in Limpopo, who will say, you know what, in my small community, this is what's going on. How can I ask for assistance from someone who's in KZN? And I think Peter highlighted that so much, that if I play my part as Alphabet B, then all the other alphabets will definitely play their part. So play your part in your small corner where you are, and don't undermine the abilities and the skills that you have.
Makes sense. Cora, what are your thoughts? Is there anything else that you want to add in terms of, what some of our panelists have touched on?
Sure, our panelists are firemen. I think there's something that Menenhle said that, like, again, just loving your inputs. Just in terms about creating spaces and being okay to be crazy. I was fortunate enough that mentorship has always been ingrained in me. So since a young age, I've always had a mentor and leveled up. And one thing that I learned about mentors is you need to attach yourself to someone that scares you. Someone that is so far beyond you, you're thinking, how did they ever get there? But I'm gonna learn. So I think it's important that youth, when they're coming together, in order to position themselves as social capital, they also need to be in a teachable space where they can see how it's being done. They need to link themselves with, and they need to be okay. They need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. They need to be okay with the crazy. They need to be scared of their mentor, not in like a kind of fear, but in like a respect kind of fear. You know what I mean? And so I think the main point is that if you can get that kind of circle, and again, it's about having this, you have different kinds of social capital, right? You've got your strong ties and your loose ties. You've got people that are, are going to back you. That when you've got that crazy idea, they're going to say, we believe in you, go ahead and do it. How can we support you in this? And the other ones that you'll pull on now and then, you'll touch base. So know who your circle is. Have that circle that's really going to support you, and then go for it, because that's where innovation lies. That's where that courage is. You need that backing. And then just in like overall points, which really is just a summary of what everyone else has said, you need to know your network. You can't be out here trying to position yourself as social capital if you don't even know what your network looks like. Map it out. Think, who are the people in my space? Who do I know? Who's close to me? Who's far from me? Who are the people? What do they do? What industry are they in? And that's really how you map out to be like, wow, I actually have more people in my network than I realized. So know your network. Then know your worth. Guys, just like Peter and everyone else on this panelist has been saying, youth are gems. They are complete gems. There's so much innovation and creativity, and our generation now, they're all about value alignment. They're not going to support Coke if Coke is out there doing things that they do not stand by on a belief system. The same thing goes for Nike. The same thing goes for Adidas. We've seen celebrities walk away from sponsorships because their value system didn't align. Value system matters now. Know your worth. Know that people want you. Know that you have something to bring. Know what your strengths are. Know what your growth areas are, but be confident that you have something to bring and something that can benefit another relationship. You are not on the back foot. You are not, a beggar. You're not pleading for people to be in a relationship with you. You've got something to bring, and that's of worth. So know your worth and know your boundaries. The risk with social capital, if people misunderstand it, it opens themselves up for abuse. So know your boundaries, know what you are willing to give and what you are willing to get, and be very aware of the power dynamic in any relationship that you're engaging in when it comes to social capital. Just because someone is a big boss and you're trying to establish bridges there doesn't mean that there's things about yourself you need to compromise in order to get there. Then rather go another route. You need to align yourself with people who share the value system, where there's a healthy power dynamic, and when you're mutually benefiting each other in a way that respects all of that in its entirety. And then lastly, be prepared to give. Last one, Sepa, I promise. Be prepared to give. Again, what Lungi was saying, you need to be willing to share information and resources. You need to be willing to do what you can when you can, and you need to be able to, like Mentle said, establish trust, because you can't say don't overpromise and underdeliver. Then people are going to doubt your reliability and they're not going to trust you. So don't be out here promising things you can't deliver on. And like Lungi said, when it comes to sharing info, she knew about the ambassador program because someone shared it on their WhatsApp. That's a network. That person could have kept that opportunity to themselves. They shared it on their WhatsApp status, and it opened up an opportunity for Lungi. And Lungi also shared it on her WhatsApp status, which opened up more opportunities for more people. So in terms of students positioning themselves as social capital, there's a lot that can be done, and just start baby step, one step at a time.
One step at a time. Last but not least, Nedi, your words to other students. What should your fellow students, your fellow ambassadors be doing, be thinking about, be positioning themselves?
Thank you so much for that, Tebo. I think more than anything, we need to just avail ourselves. We need to volunteer. We need to ask questions. We need to apply when they say there's a tutoring job that's there, because you're engaging with tatlings, people that are coming from different areas from South Africa, also outside South Africa. You're going to learn their languages. You're going to learn how they function in Zimbabwe, in Malawi, in Asia, wherever. So if you open yourself for those opportunities, you're basically building yourself the social capital. You're filling your CV so that when Simo sees it there at Baker Hughes, he's like, oh, this person can tutor. This person is able to do something without money given to them. This person has done 1, 2, 3. So open up, look for opportunities, take part, but also look at your time so that when we come to varsity to do school. So, and also when you do all these engagement things, voluntary, look at the time that you have, because that if you try to take everything at once, then now you won't be producing quality. you need to touch something that when someone reads it, when someone looks at it and be like, oh, this is well done, this is 100%. Because sometimes you wanna build social capital, but because you do your work and you never finish it, that closes doors for you. That person won't recommend you to anyone. So take something that you'll be able to do and manage within a short period so that you produce top quality. Avail yourself. Thank you so much.
Avail yourself, be of service. Beautiful, beautiful words. Thank you so much, Nedi. You know, there's a powerful comment that came within the chat from an individual donor, a Feenix donor by the name of Vanessa Orga. And these were her words, which were very interesting and very powerful. Being intentional about mutual value creation. You need to be intentional about mutual value creation within communities. It's important, though, that there is an integration of these communities to create a greater impact on macro, level for students and everyone in SA and Africa. Know who you are, remain relevant from a skills and knowledge-based perspective, seek support when you need it, always pay it forward. Some beautiful, beautiful words from Vanessa. You know, when I think about social capital, there is no one definition, but there were words and there were phrases that came up that should help you in that regard. Stuff like personal brand. What ingredients are you bringing? Service. Who are you? Your network. What are you doing in your immediate circle? Whether it's at school, whether it's in your community, whether it's in church, whether it's wherever you are. Powerful words from our panelists. Thank you so much to our panelists, our audience. That brings us to the end of the Feenix Youth Day Imbizo 2021 around social capital. Our students, our audience, our various stakeholders, the broader team at Feenix, at Wafunda, and to everybody else. Your support is always appreciated, and it helps to fuel Feenix on its journey to funding and cultivating the next generation of leaders. That brings us to the end of our event. 5 minutes over. Apologies to our speakers. Big smile, big wave. Thank you so much, guys.